So given a changing world, Tom, a changing world dynamics and all the technological advancements, I would like to ask you some questions around the future of supply chain technology in general. So with your extensive experience in supply chain, where do you see the industry heading in general? Any thoughts there? Do you see any trends? Just any thoughts whatsoever on where we're headed as an industry with supply chain?
Yeah, I hate to bandwagon or sound like, the rest of the world, but, AI is
Yeah.
obviously one of the most talked about technological advances, right?
Yeah.
And it's really not just AI. AI and ML have been around for decades, right, at
Mhm.
varying levels and use cases. I'd like to say when blockchain became a big thing and organizations around supply chain were trying to jump in and say that you needed blockchain, we didn't get distracted by that. We kind of kept to our guns and said there wasn't a great use case for our industry, at least in our transformation and operations and value we create for blockchain. I wholeheartedly agree that for generative AI and machine learning, there are deep value creation opportunities for customers in the industry. And we're looking at incredible amounts of data. We process roughly $28 billion a year of purchase order spend,
Mhm.
again, across about 80,000 suppliers and hundreds of customers. So we see a significant high transaction volume of part line releases, deliveries, shipments, demand and changes in demand, and then also human behavior around the demand, where we can start to predict supplier performance, buyer performance, lead time changes, price part changes, all kinds of opportunities to really automate deeper what a human would do versus actually having a human do it in terms of change management or exception handling. So with the significant volume of data that we have invested in a data science team that is trained in supply chain data and very deep. Again, as I mentioned, hiring people from industry that understand the data that we have and are able to innovate around that. So the obvious and biggest answer would be automation and really advancements in driving deeper AI and analytics and really furthering the ability for organizations to be leaner and more efficient around their supply chain with confidence of data
Yeah,
quality.
sure. Yeah, like you said, it is amazing where just in the software industry in general, AI, blockchain, machine learning is huge. And where this is going to go is really fascinating and it'll be interesting. But certainly, as you've mentioned, this idea of prediction and exception handling, I think will have a huge spot in the software industry, especially with your product and with ERP systems. I think it's going to be a very interesting ride, shall we say, over the next few years. But Tom, technology aside, would you say there are any other industry trends or changes, in the way that the organizations do business or anything like that? You may not have an answer. The answer may be there is none. Or is the industry, the supply chain industry in general, is all the changes strictly driven by technology? Again, the AI, the blockchain stuff, machine learning, and so forth? Or are there any other trends that you see just because of the given world dynamics that are impacting supply chain and strategy?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, outside of what I mentioned around the technology advancements, I think there will continue to be a need to really have more optionality in your supply. Organizations, for the most part, have often really dependent too much on just single source parts and
Yeah.
single suppliers. And in some cases, they may have a B supplier for some components. But I think with nearshoring and reshoring of a lot of supply, we're going to see a significant amount of opportunity to really add more optionality to suppliers throughout their supply chain. And you can't do that easily without technology. So if you're going to add, twice as many or even three times as many suppliers to give yourself supplier B, supplier C on parts and components across all of your components, not just commodities, but even strategic custom components and critical components. You can't just on a whim push demand from one supplier to the next
Yeah.
very easily without being able to track and automate and really have workflows around that can keep paths not crossed between supplier A and B. So, I think there's going to be a significant amount of optionality in supply and even a growing competitiveness in price and lead times through technology like SourceDay that will enable greater advancements in optionality in who you buy from and who becomes strategic supplier A and B, and then allowing that to happen in an automated fashion as demand is changing, as suppliers' ability to meet demand is changing, and as price changes are happening fluidly. That can't be done in Excel. It can't be done in email. It really can't be done with human capital at a very high velocity. So I think, that reshoring and nearshoring and optionality of competitiveness and suppliers is going to require further technology adoption. I think, the supply chain tech industry obviously had an incredible boom during the COVID years, and there's a lot of noise in the ecosystem. And I think you're going to see some consolidation. I think supplier risk, supplier sourcing, last mile TMS, and even demand planning, I think you will hope to start to see some consolidation of technology to reduce the confusion and noise in the industry for the businesses to consume and prioritize project prioritization, budget, otherwise to really make the best impact to their business on technology advancements.
Good points, Tom. I appreciate it. Thank you. And perhaps to your point, sourcing was a major lesson learned due to COVID, right, for many organizations. And,
right.
As you'd mentioned, this idea of sourcing and improved supply chain requires improved tech adaptation. And I think that's one thing we've seen over the last 2-3 years is that reality becoming more of an organizational mission. How do they and
Absolutely.
how can they adopt technology to help handle such events and also be more proactive going forward?
Absolutely. And I may add one more thing that you said kind of pops in another comment in my head. There's been a significant amount of innovation and advancement and even competitive technology in and around last mile track and trace and visibility. Those are critical platforms that give visibility to inbound supply once it's been shipped. One of the things that I am always speaking to our customers and prospects about is if it doesn't ship on time, it doesn't matter if you're tracking or tracing it. It's going to be late, right? It's going to impact your business. So I think a lot of organizations prioritize that last mile, that track and trace visibility and logistics, which is critical. It's not to diminish it. You have to have visibility to your logistics. But if it doesn't ship on time because of gaps or manual processes in the procurement and demand and collaboration with your suppliers, it doesn't matter. It's going to be late if it ships even a day late, right? There's nothing you can do to impact that. And watching it, cross the ocean on your track and trace platform late doesn't solve your problem. So I'd say, advancements and adoption of really fixing what we kind of called for a while the first mile, which is the procurement process, and making that more accurate is really going to be a significant driver of supply chain improvement and really better experiences for consumers of products.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tom, I appreciate your insight here. And, we were just talking about kind of exploring where you see the industry heading. We talked about the potential technological advancements that can impact supply chain, again, AI, blockchain, machine learning, and so forth. But I'm going to maybe it's the same question, but slightly different. Where then do you envision the next significant breakthrough in this field occurring? Is it the first mile? Do you think that that's where the focus is going to be, that's going to drive the most value for organizations?
Yeah, I think to your point, maybe I jumped the gun a little there. It's a little bit of that. I think organizations prioritized during COVID, the visibility of freight and logistics, and in some ways, got caught flat-footed with not having sourcing solutions from supplier optionality. And some of those problems have been solved by most organizations that got ahead of it now, or at least caught up. But I think, where the significant breakthrough now, I think selfishly in blatant plug of SourceDay is procure to pay has been a thing for, several decades, and Ariba, really leading that frontier, and Coupa and others really doing a great job of procure to pay and really managing indirect spend. The challenge is, that indirect spend is critical for many organizations. But if you're a manufacturer, distributor, or someone that is shipping a finished physical product, direct spend procurement or supply chain procurement collaboration is really kind of the last frontier that we believe is really going to revolutionize these organizations and make them much more efficient and much more profitable and able to deliver much greater product and success to their customers. And it really starts with very deep significant and unique custom workflows specific to direct material components and procurement versus the procure to pay. I think one of the challenges we face as an organization is there's not a category for direct materials procure to pay, if you will. We're calling it unified supplier collaboration or direct material collaboration with your supply chain. The reality is that piece of all manufacturers' businesses is archaic. They're still living, in some cases, you'd be shocked to hear, we speak with customers that are still faxing to their suppliers. At a minimum, they're living in Excel and PDF, which requires a significant amount of manual work. And the data is stale the moment you send it an email.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I have to admit, I love the phrase unified supplier collaboration. That's great.
I appreciate it.